Hi, I'm Julie Thompson. Welcome to the Plymouth School Committee Candidate Interview. I want to take a moment to thank our candidate for participating in this interview and collaborating with PAC TV to bring this informational programming to residents and voters this election season. Let me explain the format. We will be conducting a one-on-one interview-style Q&A format with each candidate lasting about 30 minutes. Responses will not be timed, and follow-up questions may be asked during this format. We aim to ask up to about 4 to 5 questions, but that will depend on the length of responses, along with any follow-up discussion during this exchange. Candidates will be allowed to address anything not covered or that they'd like to add clarification to at the end of the interview in their closing remarks. So let's get started. Today we're speaking with Noreen Bechade, one of the 3 candidates for school committee in the Plymouth town election. Noreen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to get right into the questions. Maintenance and upkeep of town buildings is always an issue, especially with the age of the elementary and middle schools into town. Maintenance and redistricting are the primary reasons that the closing of the Hedge Elementary is up for consideration. Weigh in on this debate.
Boy, that one is a big one for me, only because Hedge holds a very special place in my heart. A lot of people don't know this, but I was instrumental in actually bringing into focus the backpack program on Fridays, where the kids go to bed hungry at Hedge, actually. So their last meal is lunchtime. So what happened was, when I first opened up my business, I ran a sneaker drive for underprivileged kids. And so what typically happens is most kids like to have new clothes, new sneakers, going to school, and there were a lot of kids in our area that their parents can't afford that. So I ran a sneaker drive, and I found out, part of the schools that I did support was Hedge. That was one of them. There were other schools as well. And I found out from the school psychologist that day that a lot of those kids were actually going to bed hungry too, the ones that I was providing the sneakers for. And I'm like, how can that be in Plymouth? Why is this happening? So what I did was I worked with the school, and we created a backpack program because they didn't have one. So what happens is, primarily Hedge is a walking school.
Yes.
So the kids were set up where they had a backpack that they could take home, an extra one beyond the one that they had their books in, and they could bring it home, and it would be full of food that they could actually make themselves, like say peanut butter and jelly, or fruit, or yogurt, or things like that they could get into the fridge once they got home.
So this is for the weekend?
For the weekend,
awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's been going on for several years now, and then the pandemic hit, and then I sort of got bumped out because I couldn't get to the school, but they were able to create some type of special thing for them. But I was the one that actually started that program at the school. So there is another school that I am supporting that provides healthy snacks, because the kids couldn't bring the backpacks home on the buses, because then kids would be like, well, why do you have a second backpack?
Sure.
And then kids get, sort of singled out. So we didn't want that. But at Hedge, they didn't get singled out because they were a walking school, so they brought home those backpacks.
Right.
So with that said, Hedge is really special to me, because I have just love for that school. There is just so much community in that school. There's a lot of love for that school. The teachers are amazing with the kids. I can't say enough about that school. So for me, I'm not about closing the school.
Okay.
I'll be honest about that.
Okay, understood. What about the financial ramifications of that
So
school?
I looked into that as well, because obviously I wouldn't be well versed about that if I didn't do my own homework.
Sure.
And I think there are other things that were brought up at this last school committee meeting by other parents and teachers that stood up saying, hey, there's some extra land there. Maybe you could build on top of that. Maybe, in order to keep that school there still. Or doing, obviously the asbestos I know is an issue. Maybe allotting, on a yearly basis, because I know they're looking 20 years out, and I know it's an old building, but you know what? To be honest, I grew up in the old schools as well, and you know what? Those schools are just so special, even compared. I mean, I've been in the new school too, the Plymouth South, where my daughter goes. But in essence, I think they could be brought up with money being allotted to attack, like say asbestos, maybe while the school is closed during summertime, and then maybe attacking different things, whether it be windows or whatever it is that they need for, creating the school to be upgraded.
Yeah, to be safer. Now, what about the fact that there's a declining enrollment in all the elementary schools?
You know what? However, there's a lot of building going on in Plymouth, as you know, too. There's like 480 units being built right by Home Depot. So there still is going to be a need, and I think there is going to be an increase. And I think we as a school committee are going to have a lot on our hands with a lot of people moving into Plymouth. So I do feel there is going to be a lot of movement, and I know some people are shifting around, and obviously there's a lot of things up for sale, but there's a lot of units being built as well. So I think there is going to be
look to the future, and that might come back up again.
Exactly. I think it will.
Okay. So you're in favor of keeping the hedge open. Find a way to do it.
Find a way to do it. And you know what? Where there's a will, there's a way. And my philosophy is you either go over the fence, around the fence, or under the fence. Either way, you can get to the other side of the fence and make it happen where everyone settles.
Okay. Excellent. Question number 2. Each year, the district is asked to keep its budget increased to a minimal amount. And yet, when it presents a level service budget, the increase always seems to be a little bit more than they were asked. Can you explain what a level service budget is and why the budget continues to increase when the school population seems to be decreasing?
Honestly, that was over my head.
Okay.
I am just a parent, and I am not really a complete numbers girl. I'll be totally honest with that and transparent. I feel that my position here is to be the parent's voice, and so parents are feeling that they don't have a say, or if they do say something, they're not really listened to. So really, I feel that my role coming on to the board is going to be a parent that is going to be the voice for other parents.
Okay.
So for me, I don't really know, I can't give you much information on that or how I feel about that or what I know about it.
Okay.
But I will be honest with you that, it's not like I'm a quick learner and I'm a fast learner.
Yeah.
So obviously once I delve into it, I can learn more. But at that point right now, it's over my head.
Okay. But a budget in general, I mean, a budget is
right.
obviously.
Your budgets are obviously, it's hard to stay in budget, even when you're building a house. Let's look at it that way.
Right.
Building a house, you're always going to go a little bit beyond budget, but maybe within reason, not like way over budget. I think there's ways that you can negotiate and try to work things out to get things close within that budget if you become creative. So again, we have to have a creative mentality and start looking at things. Well, how can we make this happen and still stay within our budget or be close to, our budget?
So, following that thread, are there things that you think can be done in a school or school system that can be done without a budgetary item? Like, what can you run for free? What could happen that you could add services or programs to a school, but it wouldn't cost anything?
You know what? Have people ever thought about community service? Like, for example, how about a business owner coming in and teaching fiscal responsibility to the kids without getting paid? But teaching them how to balance a checkbook, teaching them how to use a credit card and what that actually means, that you have to pay the bill at the end of the month. How about teaching them, how to look at gas prices and, well, if I've got a car and I just got my license and it's costing me X amount of dollars for the loan on my car to get to school, and then how many miles I have to drive to get to school, using gas. How about teaching kids fiscal responsibility? We have so many talented people in Plymouth that could teach these kids different things about life skills that are not being taught in the school.
And it wouldn't be a budget item.
And it wouldn't be a budget item.
Okay.
Why not offer something like that? I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's certainly an idea. So the things like funded and unfunded mandates you're not sure about, like the things that a town has to pay for, like if you don't offer a certain program and a student wants it and another school system does, you have to pay to bus them to that school. Are you aware of that?
I have heard of that.
Yeah.
I haven't obviously taken advantage of anything like that.
Okay, yeah. Because I think a lot of residents always feel, look, the school is such a huge part of the overall town budget. And the school system handles the budget their own way, and the town doesn't have a lot to say about it. So what are your feelings as a parent? You say you're going to represent the parents, but you're also a taxpayer.
Right.
So what happens when your kids are out of the school and your taxes continue to go up, partially because there's more and more school budget items needed?
Right. Well, here's another thing. Here's another thing I'll throw at you, too. What about if a parent pulls their child out to homeschool them? They don't get a break on their taxes.
Correct.
Same thing. So I was told, no matter what, because there were parents that were during the pandemic thinking, I'm going to pull my kids out, and I don't like what's going on, and all of that. And really, they were telling me, well, if we pull our child out, we're not getting a break in our taxes.
Yeah,
we're still going to homeschool, but it's still costing us money for a homeschool program.
Yep.
So it's kind of one and the same, I think.
Yep.
So what's the difference?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It's just like when people, like elderly people that move into an over 55,
Yeah.
They're like, we're not taking advantage of any of this school stuff when
Right.
we clearly can't. So
Heck,
we can't even
guess
have
what?
kids.
I'm 60 and I have a 15-year-old, so there you are.
Okay.
Like,
There you
matter.
go.
I can't move into an old over 55 because I have a young one still. But
Okay.
so the bottom line is, it's still, you know, you have to pay what you have to pay, and it is what it is.
Yep.
And so there's not much really you can do about that. You can protest all you want, but the thing is, how do we make this all happen?
Right.
You've got
and
to get
taxes are for the holistic town.
overall.
Yeah, the overall town. Okay. With the increasing cost of attending colleges, many students are looking to join the trades or go into certified or licensed programs instead. Plymouth has a very strong tech studies program at both high schools, which are so popular that not all the students who apply are accepted into these programs. How can the district accommodate or support students who are interested in the trades if they aren't accepted into the programs?
That's a really good question, because I have seen kids fall in that. You don't want them falling between the cracks. Because say a kid is really not college material. Now they're lost in the cracks of where do they go after school. You know, one thing that could be a possibility, just throwing it out there, something to think about, is I know that my brother teaches at a technical high school in another town. And I know that they have actually night courses for the adults who want to get into, say, plumbing or electrical or, you know, culinary arts. It might be something that there could maybe be an evening program that is put into place where those kids, if they can't get into that, and that's something that they truly, truly want, to slide in somehow with something in a different program that's offered for them.
Or how about offering that same program at night? At the
Right,
high
that's what I'm
schools?
saying, yeah, at night.
Not just
Right.
at another high school,
Right,
but at
right,
that
at
one.
night,
Yeah.
right, that's what I
If
mean.
that's
So at
ever
his school, they
considered,
offered at night.
Yeah.
So that might be an option, that maybe the kid would get a job during the day and he might go to school at night. That would be his high school. Like, he would have to still take his English, and he or she would have to take their English and all the other requirements maybe during the day, but then they'd have maybe like a work study program type of thing where they could get a job and then come in and do a couple of hours at night for the trade.
Sure.
Especially if we can't fit them all in, if that's especially really where they want to go. And I do believe the trades are really, really critical. We are, I mean, I have so many like plumbers and electricians that come into my business, and they're hurting for people that are talented or people that they can actually train and take under their wing.
Right.
So I do believe that there is, like I said, when there's a problem presented, we can certainly come up with an answer. We just have to think outside the box a little bit.
Right.
You know?
And what about the fact that there's just such a limited amount of students that can participate? Should they expand the programs? As more and more kids are deciding, I'm not going to go to a four-year college, do you, as a school committee member, have to kind of start thinking about our curriculum in totality?
Right. We want to set these kids up for success. That's the bottom line. And if we're just letting them get lost after they graduate, and I know a few that are seniors right now that don't know what they're going to do with their lives because they didn't really get into, they're regretting getting into a program. And they were kind of half and half, and then they thought they were going into the service, the military, and then that fell through, and now they're like, now what?
Yeah, now what do I
So,
do? Yeah.
right, and I think if there were a night program offered, that would be an opportunity for that kid to jump into that, to be able to get a skill, or they're going to have to look for a technical college, and even then it's still going to be longer and different. And I think if they could just get it in the high school level, and if we have that opportunity to provide that program, I think that would be the way to go.
And of course, that would add to the budget.
It would add to the budget. However, maybe there might be some way of sharing the cost, you know, swapping the parents, because they're going to have to pay to go to college anyways, or some technical school. So maybe there's something that can be worked into the budget that somehow we could share the overall cost between the kids that are going during the day and the kids that are going at night.
Okay.
You know?
Yep. Like you said, sometimes you have to think
We
outside
just
the
have
box.
to get creative
Yeah.
and think outside that
Yep.
box.
Okay, question number 4. The district is in the process of hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator. Why is this position needed at this point, and what do you see as the outcome of having a person in this role? In your opinion, why is this seen as a controversial subject by some also?
Oh, that's a hot question, a
Yep.
really hot question.
Yep.
To be honest, I really don't think we have diversification issues. I think it's being created more on a political sense, and I think it's politically driven. And I've been around a lot of the kids, whether they're in sports or whatever. Like I said, my daughter's into a couple of sports, and I've been around, and I don't see that. Let's look at this from a different perspective. Kids who play in the sandbox when they're really little, they don't look at color. They don't look at whether someone's yellow or red or green or purple. They don't do that. It's being created by the adults and as a whole. So I feel if they just leave it alone and stop bringing it to the forefront, it's not really a big issue. I really don't. And I see why the parents are making such a big fuss about it, because now they're bringing it up and it's not something that really existed. These little kids, I've got parents coming in that have 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds that they don't know anything about that. That kids are, if you see a kid in a playground, they see another kid that he doesn't even know. Hey, you want to come play with me? Hey,
Sure.
you want to go on the swings with me? That's how kids are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the lower level like that, I just don't feel
This
that's
is for the
really,
whole district.
Right, I get that.
So do you think there's any groups, whether it's because of their gender or their religion or their social status, or even if they have any kind of challenges with either physical challenges or intellectual challenges, are they? I think the whole idea is are they treated the same? Are they integrated and treated the same, no matter what? And you're saying you don't think there's a problem with that?
Like I said, let's face it, we've all grown up in schools, right?
Yep.
Over the years.
Yep.
I mean, my age, your age.
Yep.
And for the most part, I think everyone, for the most part, everyone tried to get along. There wasn't, you had your kids who were, doing, like you had kids who were really, really smart and on the National Honor Society. You had kids who were in sports. You had kids who, well, in my school, there was like little druggies, outside and in the, under the trees smoking cigarettes or whatever. But as a whole, we all still got along. There was never really any nastiness that went on. And I think by being brought to the forefront, I think it's making it more evident and people are starting to behave that way. I think if we could just smooth it out and everyone accepts everyone, no matter what. And everyone if we create that kind of attitude, but not really bringing out this group is dressed like this and this group acts like this and this group prefers this. If you stop grouping people and just let them integrate, let them mold together, the synergy will happen on its own.
What about the students who English is not their first language?
So
I mean, that's any town or city that has multi languages that becomes an issue.
Well, I grew up in Taunton, so it's primarily Portuguese.
Okay.
And I'm half Portuguese myself.
Okay.
So my grandmother specifically spoke Portuguese, but obviously I grew up learning, speaking English. We had at the time classes where the kids who were speaking primarily Portuguese, their parents came from Portugal, they learned English until they could get up to speed with the rest of us, and then they brought them into the classes with us. And they also, which I thought was really cool, they assigned, like, say, me to a student.
Yep.
So I was like a mentor to them. And I think creating mentorship is amazing, creating leadership, because we want to develop leaders in this country, right? We want people to step into leadership.
Right.
And so I think creating something like that and building leadership skills is amazing. If we could do something like that, that would...
So you think a mentorship program would maybe offset the need
Yes.
for an inclusion, equity, diversity person? Okay, and that would have to be mentors of older students or teachers or...
Well, it could be, it varies. It depends on the grade. It depends on the kids. So in other words, you could have peer mentors. So in other words, I was a mentor to a kid that was the same age as me, that was in the same level. But also, depending on what the level of that kid was, like say on their English, you might need someone who is maybe a junior working with a freshman or whatever. But creating those leadership skills is really what we want. We want leaders in this country. We want leaders to be able to lead this country. And creating that at a lower level is going to teach them, obviously being able to understand someone else, where they're coming from, having, sympathy and empathy for that person, and also learning leadership role.
Okay. All right. Question number 5. One of the roles of the school committee is to approve major adoption or revision of curriculum and textbooks upon recommendation of the superintendent. Can you explain how the district sets its curriculum, what standards are followed by the departments, and how often this comes in front of the school committee?
That I don't know anything about.
You don't know anything about a curriculum. So, okay, then if you don't know anything about how the curriculum is set, how do you think a curriculum should be set? And what books we should use, and what courses we should take and add and drop and that kind of thing.
I get it. Well, say the superintendent recommends or has a list. I think that there should be a group taking those books reading through them. And it could be a group of parents as well, because parents need to have some say in how their children are being educated. I firmly believe that, and I think that's one of the issues that's going on that I'm hearing outside in the world. So if they had a group put together of parents, teachers working together, reading through those books first before they're approved for the system, that way parents have a better idea what their kids are being taught, rather than just learning after the books are already there, or after everything's been happening and the kids are coming home, or they're hearing things on Zoom like they did during COVID. So parents were pretty shocked at what they learned, what the kids were learning. So I think that if they had a group put together with a blend of people involved, I think that would be a better way to do it.
Okay. Now, not only books or whatever books you use, but the actual curriculum, like the reading and writing arithmetic when I was young, that was it.
Which we
the
still
3
need,
R's. And once in a while you get a foreign language, and then wow, you might even get an advanced bio. And then computers came along, and whoa, there was introduction to computer science. But nowadays there's so many skills and fields that people can go into that are tech, that are biomed.
Right.
So is it our responsibility as parents or as people that are on school committees to look at that and say, what should we alter in our curriculum to get these kids ready for when they walk out after 12th grade?
Like what's trending?
Yeah, well, it's not just trending, but do you have your crystal ball? Can you see into
can
the
you
future?
see beyond? Can you see beyond that?
Right.
I think, first of all, having a good base is really important. So there are so many kids that still can't read properly. There are certain kids that don't even have math skills down. So we've got to get that. And honestly, like I said, the biggest thing I'd like to drive home is they need to learn how to survive on their own outside. They need to learn fiscal responsibility. I can tell you right now, kids do not know money. They think it grows on trees. They think it's a credit card. They think we've got to create that, because how are these kids going to survive on their own, paying an apartment rent, paying for a vehicle, paying for transportation? That's one of the biggest things.
Budgets.
Right.
How do you do what comes in and what goes out?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I firmly believe that these kids need to learn that. It needs to be not just done for one semester. There needs to be where they learn how to balance, a checkbook. They learn how to monitor their money.
Do you think that should start in the early grades in the elementary school? As far as money? I mean, allowance. What do you do with your allowance?
Right.
Do you save it or do you spend it all?
Well, I'll give you a funny, this is a real funny story, but bottom line is my daughter went to a different school at first when she was younger, and the teacher gave the kids a budget, and they had to buy their desk, they had to buy their chair, they had to buy their books, and if they spent too much money on any one thing and they didn't have the desk, they had to sit on the floor for the week or the month. They had a monthly budget.
But that'll teach you, huh?
Right, right. So, they would laugh at some of the kids that were sitting on the floor, but they weren't wise enough. So the teacher would go over and say, okay, well, this is what you didn't look at what you had for expenses, and you went and spent it on gum and this and that, but you weren't thinking about, I had to keep I needed my desk to sit at, and inside my desk were my books. Right. So I think it was a younger age. It was probably like 3rd grade or 4th grade, but it kind of gave them an idea, like, hey, I need to start looking. Yes,
those are the kind of
she
things
remembers
you
it
don't
still,
forget.
and she's 15 and still remembers that particular exercise. So even doing little things like that, creativity that the teachers come up with to teach them some fiscal responsibility, I think would be great, and then carrying it on into, as they get older.
And what do you feel about following up with students who graduated 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and asking them, what didn't you learn here? That you might have learned.
Alumni. You can have an alumni group, even if when they have reunions, they could reach out to some of those kids and say, hey, what did you think you should have learned?
Exactly.
Or what you could have learned so that we could improve our curriculum?
Right.
I think feedback is the best way to go for those who are already in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that took care of my 5 questions. So we have about 7 minutes left. So you can talk about anything you want to, any subject we didn't bring up. Why are you running for school committee? Is this your first foray into it?
This is my first foray. This is my first foray into it. Primarily, like I said, just listening to parents, and it's been a crazy, crazy couple of years for parents struggling with so many different things coming at them. And like I said, I thought about it. I'm not a political person, like I said. I'm just more about, I really care about the kids. I care about what their future looks like. I hear the parents, and their concerns, and I thought, should I do this? I don't know, that type of thing. And I thought, well, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when?
So what
And
concerns are you hearing from parents? What are the hot button items?
some of the ones you've already brought up.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything I
So-
didn't bring up that are hot button items?
Those are pretty much. I mean, the books and the curriculum is really important. I do feel what some of the kids are learning at the lower level too, that shouldn't maybe be brought up in a public school system. That let kids be kids. Let them be innocent. Let them stay innocent. Let them grow into their adulthood,
right.
and their teens
Yep.
and adulthood,
Yeah.
rather than trying to expose them to things that adults are exposed to. Let them be children.
Right.
That's the bottom line,
Right.
and that's what I'm hearing from a lot of parents. Let our kids be kids.
Right. Right.
Because let them be free. Let them be on. Let them just be pure.
Yeah.
Kids are pure at that age, and don't corrupt them right now. Let them be. They will learn, and the parents, obviously our parents, they will teach their children the things that they should know in life, so to speak, but about being kind and the proper morals and values. I mean, morals and values can be taught. Obviously start at the home, churches and whatnot, but that type of thing I think is one of the biggest.
Can you give an
concerns.
example of some of the things that parents feel that is inappropriate that is being taught at the actual schools?
Yeah, but I really want to go into that right now.
Okay.
I think that's something that probably will come out at some point through parents talking to the school committee.
Okay.
So because I hear it, but I don't want to give that out,
Okay.
for them. I just feel that it's up to them to come forth.
Okay.
And that will be dealt with when if it comes up.
Okay.
I mean, because like I said, I hear them, but I'm like, it's up to them to really, not for me to say it, but
Yep.
for them to say it.
Okay. And there's 3 people running for 2 spots.
Yes. 2 spots.
Two
Yes.
shots at it. So why you?
Why me? One, I'm a parent, and I am heavily involved in the community, and I am all about the kids. And to me, that is my passion. I'm a mom. I'm a single mom, so I get what it's like to juggle everything. Single moms make it happen. That's the thing. So the commitment is there. I was president of my BNI, and I was committed to running that meeting every single week, and I did it for 2 straight years as the president. So I understand what commitment is all about. So for me, it's more like bringing a different light, looking at things from a 10,000 foot view, and saying, let's put some critical thinking hats on. Let's look at this. Let's kind of try to come up with some different solutions and creative solutions. Because sometimes I think new solves all. And even in my business, new solves all. New people bring more new energy, and creating that new energy and coming up with different ideas. Can be very refreshing. And so that's sort of what I'm looking at, is that I can bring a refreshing look at things, because I've got, like a child, right? I've got clear eyes where I can see it. I haven't been in that for so long that I can come in and looking at it from a different point of view, from a different side of the fence.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
anyway, that's kind of my input.
So that's your speech, and you're sticking to it.
That's exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I'd appreciate everyone taking a look at, find me on Facebook, take a look at my video as to who I am, where I'm coming from, what I want to do, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just a parent being the parent's voice.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. So we'd like to thank Noreen for participating in this interview, and we wish you the best of luck throughout your campaign and in the election. For our viewers, thank you for joining us. If you're interested in watching replays of this interview, please visit our website, pactv.org/elections, for replay times and online viewing options, including PAC TV's on-demand and streaming service, PAC TV Prime. And please make your choices heard by voting in the election on Saturday, May 21st. Thank you, and good day.